Question number 1, when we look at this question, we don't see verbs changing or anything. We see one answer that's shorter than others. And always check the shortest answer first, because the ACT is really looking for 3 things. And you can remember those by the 3 C's. Clear, the information needs to be clear. Consistent with the tone and style of the passage and the rules of the English language. And concise, the shortest answer. So the correct answer for this one is D, which you would check first. We drive across the country the way most people might go from home to work and back. If you say back again to home, it's redundant, so just back, you know you're going back home. So your answer is D. So in number 2, we see the LYs, and so we know this is a modifier question. And adverbs end in LY. So if I said quickly run to the store. So quickly describes how you run. It's an adverb. You want to say quick run to the store, quickly run to the store. And so we got to decide, well, what is regular? So in this one, trips are regular. And how regular are they? Well, they're fairly regular. So fairly regular trips. So your answer is F. This next question, we have then versus than. So then is chronologically, and then is comparison. We are going to eat pizza, then we are going to exercise. I like pizza better than I like milkshakes. So comparing versus chronology. So first figure out, is this one chronology? One thing leads to another, or comparison? I guess you could call us nomads, except for the fact that our trips become fairly regular, mostly to Las Vegas, then back to New York. So it's one to the other. So we can eliminate anything that has than in it. And now we're going to say, well, do we need a comma or don't need a comma? And it's actually kind of tricky because this comma makes it look like you should have a complete idea after it, and then we go back to New York, our home for the past 25 years. But really, this is becoming kind of extra information that you could take out. So B is the correct answer. That's actually a pretty hard question when you get down to choice B and D. So it's a little nuanced questions with commas. So number 4, my husband and I are retired high school teachers, which means that we have plenty of time to travel. That sounds right. So we're probably going to say F just based on how it sounds. It's always a good starting point. If we said plenty of time to be traveling, well, that's not the most concise answer. Remember, clear, consistent, concise is not the most concise answer. And it's also not an active voice. So plenty of time for us to travel, plenty of time, it's ambiguous. So we're just going to go with F as the most clear and concise answer. Which choice would help establish that the narrator has good reasons for driving back and forth across the country? So good reasons for driving back and forth. So if we look at the sentence, staying in New York for more than 3 weeks is generally enjoyable. Well, that staying in one place is not a good reason for driving back and forth, right? Enjoyable, not a good reason. Simplistic, also not a good reason. Not viable, well, that's a good reason for driving back and forth, not staying. Quite easy. So the only one that fits to say a good reason for driving back and forth is not viable. See, even if you didn't know what the word viable meant, you could eliminate the others because I think everyone would know enjoyable, simplistic, and easy are vocabulary words you know. Even if you don't know viable, you could process of eliminate and get it down to choice C. So we see in number 6, it's a verb question because became, has become, had become. Las Vegas had become our sunshine sanctuary. We have become completely fed up with New York's cold and gloomy winters. We have a clue here, actually. It says we have become, so it has become. So your answer is J. You really want that parallel structure that matches. So again, clear, consistent, concise, because that's going to be consistent with the passage. Number 7 we see as a comma question. The commas are changing. We have comma and comma, semicolon. And so let's check the semicolon first, because semicolons, remember, divide complete ideas or complex items in a series. You have complete idea, complete idea. And if we put it before warm, what comes after it is sunny west, which is not a complete idea, and this is not complex items in a series. So now we know D is definitely wrong. So let's remember our 5 comma rules. So first rule is, or comma punctuation, complete idea can be divided by a period, an exclamation point, comma, fanboys, or a semicolon, exclamation point, question mark. And then you have a colon and dash can also divide complete ideas. What comes after those could also be complete or incomplete. Those are the tricky ones. 1, comma, 2, comma, and 3. So items in a series, 1, 2, 3. And then you can take out, you can remove, comma, remove, comma. It could be comma, remove, period also. Dash, remove, dash, or dash, remove, period. And then parentheses, move, you can pick it up from the beginning of the sentence. Although I'd rather be studying, comma, I am exercising. So you can move that. And then the last one, which is this rule, which is the lazy, smelly cat. The lazy, smelly cat in a really fast car. If you can switch the words around, lazy and smelly, and it still makes sense, the picture doesn't change, you need a comma. So think about the lazy and smelly cat. Lazy and smelly, that makes sense. You couldn't say the really and fast car, so there's no commas because you can't switch really and fast around. So in this one, it's warm and sunny west. So, and because you have this extra comma after sunny, that doesn't make sense, so it has to be C. Number 8, there's all kinds of punctuation going on in here. So we have adopted 2 dogs. Let me pause for a minute. Let's go back and look at our rules again. This is probably going to be that move rule, right? Rule number 4, you can pick it up and move it. So if we think about it in that way, so we've adopted 2 dogs, flying is not an option. So which one makes the most sense? Flying is not an option. So we've adopted 2 dogs? Like you couldn't fly, so you adopted? No. Because we have adopted 2 dogs, flying is not an option. See how you can pick this up and move it after this part of the sentence? Flying is not an option because we've adopted 2 dogs, both of which are shelter mutts. That's extra information. Go back to the previous ideas with commas. Rule number 3. So the only one that really makes sense here is choice G. And really, I already answered this question. Both of which are shelter mutts is extra information, the remove rule. And you can see that it has a comma on both sides of it. It could have had dashes here as well. Both of which are shelter mutts. Extra information, you could take it out and it still makes sense. We have adopted 2 dogs. Because we've adopted 2 dogs, flying is not an option. So your answer is A. Let me just go back here one more time. If you don't know these 5 comma rules, or 5 punctuation rules, you really need to know them. They're essential to breaking down the puzzle on the ACT or the PSAT. You can get this question right in 2 ways. Let's talk about the verb way you can get it right, because it's obviously a verb question. You're choosing between lie versus lay and line. So the easiest way, though, is knowing the 1S rule. And the 1S rule is kind of a non-official rule. It just says there's only room for 1S in the English language. Girl runs, girls run. You know that. You've heard it said many times like that. It sounds right. So we're going to say, what is lay or line or was line in this sentence? And so this sentence, what's relaxing is Lizzie. So Lizzie lies. So your answer is H. Now you can also know the difference in lay versus lie. So lay requires a direct object. Lay the book on the table, and lie is the act of being relaxed, reposing. If it's past tense, that's trickier because the past tense of lie is lay. But most time that you see this on the ACT or the SAT is going to be the present tense form. So this is an order question. Where should sentence 5 be placed? Every few hours they get to jump out of the truck and sniff out the newest stop. So this is about what the dogs get to do, right? The 2 adopted dogs that are traveling in the car. So let's just go through the choices. If we did choice B, before sentence 1, we wouldn't know who they are. So that wouldn't make sense because we would not have told us about the 2 adopted dogs yet. So that one's easy to eliminate. If we did it after sentence 3, we don't know what sentence 4 then becomes confusing because they know the drill. Well, what's the drill? So we don't know that. After sentence 2, in our extended cab truck, every few hours they get out of the truck and sniff for the newest stop, not know the drill, still is confusing. So it has to be A. That's kind of a tricky one. These are slow questions to work through because you really got to think through every sentence, read the paragraph. It's not like working the puzzle of a comma question. These are a little bit slower and take more time. Slower, take more time, same thing, that's redundant. For this one, we see verbs. We know it's a verb question. And so it's either a 1S rule or a verb tense or agreement, or parallelism. Thus far, we have past. Oh, that's a different form of past. So it's actually choice. Past means like it occurred in the past. And past, P-A-S-S-E-D, means like to go pass or to, when you pass a class, actually, the same thing. You traveled past that class academically. So we have passed the Hoover Dam, so we know it's not choice F, that's the wrong form, or choice H. So is it are passing or climbed? So we've climbed, so we have passed, so J. So it's a parallelism question as well. Actually, a little hint on this one. Since you see have passed and have passed, usually you know it's going to be one of those 2 choices because it's the same structure. It becomes a word choice question then. So number 13 we can see is definitely an apostrophe question. So we've paid our tolls. The tolls aren't owning anything, so it can't be D and it can't be A. Now we just have the question, do we need this comma? Paid our tolls in Oklahoma and looped around St. Louis. We get a clue here. There's no comma about looped around St. Louis. When it say looped comma around St. Louis. So paid our tolls is all 1, so it's just B. Generally, you're not going to offset any prepositional phrases with commas anyway. It's not to say you can't, but it's generally stylistically not something that's going to be done. The writer is considering deleting the previous sentence. If so, what would the passage lose? It's really saying, why is this passage here? I'm mentally preparing myself for a sunless New York sky during our week at home. So the writer has focused the essay. That's not the focus of the essay. Gravity of the situation? No. So reinforcement of the reason the writer doesn't mind constant travels? Probably, because that's what the essay is about. Detail that reiterates why the narrator does not like to live in New York. So we know that she doesn't mind New York. She doesn't like the sun, but this is really going to be H. Has to be H, because it's all about going back and forth between sunless New York and sunny Las Vegas. It's that contrast there. So it's going to lose that contrast. So H is the best answer. And the last one, suppose the writer had chosen to write a travel article about Las Vegas. Would the essay fulfill this goal? So this is a goal question. You already know the whole thing's not about Las Vegas. It's about their travel trips, between New York and Las Vegas. It's about being on the road. That's the whole essay's purpose. So now we got to say, was it C or D? No, because the writer likes Las Vegas only for the warm and sunny weather. We don't know for sure if that's the only reason the author likes it. I'm going to say D without even reading it, but now we're going to read it to be sure. No, because the essay is a personal account, yes, of a trip to Las Vegas. It doesn't highlight any particular features about the city. That is true. It's about their travels back and forth, so D. So if you have any questions, reach out, because remember the goal of these is to help you understand the puzzle and how to do better on the ACT or the SAT or the PSAT. Just understanding the language, understanding the puzzle, so you can be a good communicator and score amazing and get lots of money for college.